Okay, everybody, let's take it from the top.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Hi-ho, everybody, and welcome back to D Plus Us, the show about all things Disney. I'm one of your hosts, Griffin Tennell. Griffin D-Pad with me, as always, is the wonderful, the amazing Mr. Mitch George. How you doing tonight?
I'm tired. I'm still recovering, and we're here to talk about all that.
Yes, you see, you got to go out into the world and have fun, and I'm not bitter at all. Of course,
Well, parts of it were fun, and we'll get to that, I'm sure.
yes. In case you didn't know, folks, Mitch was just recently on a Disney trip, and that's what we're going to be talking about. But Mitch was not the only person just on a Disney trip. No, Aaron, welcome back to the show. You were also in Disney, you absolute jerk. How are you doing today?
I know. It was awesome. I was there for a whole week. I was also exhausted when we were back, but it was worth it. Thanks for having me back on the show. I was excited.
Just the coincidence of you being on this trip when our first episode back after my trip was me just talking about the trip is honestly kind of perfect. So glad we're able to have you on to chat all about it.
Yeah, man, it worked out well.
Like I said, absolutely not bitter at all. No, I'm super jealous of you guys. Like, I've been wanting to go back to Disney for a while. Seeing you guys there, seeing you both post pictures separately, only to run into each other, was absolutely wonderful. Secondhand, watching through the window.
Well, this connection wouldn't exist if it weren't for you, Griffin. So
True, I would have never gotten a random DM in the Avatar line saying, "Are you at Animal Kingdom?" Otherwise, your doppelganger is here.
Yep.
Yes, we're going to talk all about this. Let's hit the rigmarole. But before we jump in, though, folks, first off, this is D+. It's like we mentioned, it's a show about all things Disney. In case you haven't noticed, we have taken a break from talking about currently airing content, whether that be movies or television, in support of the strikes by the WGA and SAG-AFTRA. Remember, if you want to support the unions, go learn directly from the unions about all that stuff. Do you want to keep up with the stuff we do? Well, we are still here doing shows about park stuff, about old content, whatever. Just hanging out and messing around and seeing what we can come up with. Make sure to subscribe, hit all of the bells and buttons and random stuff on YouTube. And if you're listening on podcast services, go over to YouTube, hit the buttons, do the things, have a good time with us. Another video essay is going to be coming soon. I've got a giant stack of comic books sitting next to me that I've been reading through for said video essay. Seriously,
See, I don't think you're doing the video essay. You're not reading the comics for the video essay. You're doing the video essay so you have an excuse to read the comics. And I'm all about it.
I love it.
This is just
here comes the stack for y'all listening at home.
Of the comic books. Here's your sneak peek.
I'm so jealous of that Figment one, especially after this trip.
Oh yeah. We'll talk all about this because I've succeeded in my number one goal, which is Mitch must be traumatized by the moon at the end of the Journey into Imagination with Figment. But before we jump into that, I want to talk about you guys in Animal Kingdom running into each other. Just what?
We had the same rope drop strategy, which is kind of the only reason why it worked out, where the Avatar Flight of Passage line was looping back, and I did a double take because I'd seen a couple of Aaron's tweets that he had been at Disney. I'm like, oh yeah, we'll be there in a few days. And then once you're there, you kind of forget that the outside world exists and you live in that bubble for a week, and it's both a blessing and a curse. But then remembering back, like, that had to be Aaron. And one Twitter DM later, and we're meeting up in the line for the other Avatar attraction, Navi River Journey, to take a selfie or take a photo. And then, that day ended up being like, oh yeah, let's grab lunch. It was an Avatar day, to be honest, where everything we did, or every time we ran into each other, it was Avatar related. It's true. And I'm not a fan of Avatar in the slightest. We will not do an episode on either of those movies or any of the 17 sequels that are planned, because I have zero interest in discussing what is essentially Pocahontas, but with blue CGI aliens in it for some reason. But man, that land at Animal Kingdom is something special. Even not as a fan of the IP, it's wild.
And exact same. I had not even watched Way of the Water until the day before we left for the trip. It was kind of a time killer because I was so excited to leave. And I was like, you know what? We're doing the Avatar thing on Friday. let's watch Way of the Water. So I watched it. It was fine.
3 hours, you're never getting back.
Never getting
It's
back.
literally the
Yep.
same story as the first movie, which I still find
It is.
hilarious.
But it's not unobtainium. It's space whale brain fluid. So different. So
Yeah.
imaginative.
And also significantly
Even-
worse.
Even my significant other, when it ended, it showed a preview for the first one, like, now watch this. And she's like, oh my God, did you just read that description? Like, that could be the description of the second movie. I was like, yeah, spot on.
Yeah,
5 more of those, or however many more they're planning.
That's right.
Yeah.
Despite those and my vehement dislike of James Cameron, I love that Avatar land. I have mixed feelings about Flight of Passage, but
Prior
Really?
to this trip, Flight of Passage was my favorite theme park attraction I'd ever been on prior to this trip.
so yeah, I don't like Flight of
It's-
Passage.
I absolutely love the immersion.
I really
of it.
enjoyed it too. Yeah, I thought it was
yeah.
awesome.
So the reason I don't like it is very, very self-absorbed, very me. But the last time I was at Disney, it was just me and my little brother. We waited in standby, rope dropping in the morning. We weren't great about our rope drop though, so it took us a solid 3 hours to get into the ride.
Not worth that.
Because it was in June, so there was a ton of people there. Wasn't
Peak
worth
season,
it.
Yeah.
My feet are blistered to hell, so I am feeling the pain. We finally get up there, sit down, and my seat doesn't lock.
Right. I remember you telling me this. That's right.
It was just one of those moments of well, now I have beef with this ride.
Yeah.
So
That
did
is-
you-
that is justifiable beef.
Yeah, did they put you on a different?
Nah,
Like-
I wasn't allowed to ride the ride.
Oh,
I had to go sit in the hallway that you walk down to get out of it.
just
It's a special cruelty sitting in that hallway because you can hear all of the music and sounds from the ride, and you can hear the oohs and ahs of people.
Can you smell it?
No, you can't smell it.
Oh, thank God. That's the one that would kill me.
And it's oh yeah, okay, everyone's having fun, and Disney did what they do best. They comped us. We got a bunch of free fast passes with it, but I was already defeated at that point. So
I'm
I
not going to
left
get
the
in that
park.
line again for that ride with how your experience went to start the morning.
Yeah, I left the parks at that point. Proceeded to go down to downtown Disney and buy new shoes. And buy blister
Disney
packs.
Springs.
And, Disney
Springs. Come on. Gotta-
Hey, I still call
Wrong
it
coast.
MGM sometimes. So
I was at a family function this weekend, talking to one of my cousins about our trip. He's like, "Oh, we're thinking about planning a trip next year, but there's so much planning that goes into it." My brain was immediately like, I can either make their trip amazing, or walk away, and have no involvement whatsoever. And my brain won't let me not help. So I've extended that olive branch of it. As soon as you want to think about it, you let me know. You hit me up, and we'll talk through all the nitty gritty of it. Although they're planning on staying off property, which I don't know, unless the cost savings were significant. I'm talking thousands of dollars difference. I don't think I could do it
I don't either.
in Florida.
it is that big of a difference, though. It is significant staying off site, but I love the Disney hotels, especially the couple of hotels that I've consistently been to, particularly Beach Club and Boardwalk. With just that back entrance to Epcot too, it's just it's how
So
I love
we-
doing the parks. I can't do it any other way anymore.
So we were at one of the Skyliner resorts, which is Disney's new gondola transportation system. We were at Pop Century.
Can we keep calling that
And
new?
this-
It's been there for a while now.
It was it was pre-COVID. It was 2019, I think, that it opened. So that's still relatively new within the scope of Disney.
I guess it's
Stuff.
theme park, yeah.
And you lose 2 years to COVID. I guess Florida didn't, because Florida didn't believe in COVID, but most of us lost 2 years to COVID. But we'll get to that too. But the Skyliner drops you off at the same international entrance, the international gateway entrance to Epcot, which was great. Except our Epcot day, we royally effed the rope drop, and Ratatouille was already a 75-minute wait when we got into the park, which wasn't great. So I don't know if we want to do this in order or based on park or whatever, but that day for us,
We are
was
basing
our,
this episode, Mitch, entirely off of vibe and vibe alone. We're just gonna see where this goes.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, the start of our Epcot day sounds similar to that experience you had at Animal Kingdom of just nothing that could have gone right went right. Everything was just, other than getting the virtual queue for Guardians, nothing that morning went right.
Okay, so we got to talk about Guardians, but I want to talk about Ratatouille first. I assume we both went on Ratatouille.
Yep. And now, for some reason, we had the exact same issue with rope drop. We got some security guard who was like, we will not let anybody move past this line until 8:30. And like a couple of the other groups, they just like opened it up at like 8:15. And so the line was huge by the time our security guy let us in. And so I think ours was 80 minutes when we got there.
Yeah, so we ended up going back later in the day to ride it. So it went down for a bit and reopened with a 45-minute wait. That's when we got in queue, which was it was a blessing. So the biggest issue with the Epcot day is, so this was 2 days after we saw you, Aaron. I got COVID on this trip and didn't know until I got back. But our Epcot day was the day where I was like, my mom, you met my mom, and like she was a try hard the whole way through of like, no, we're rope drop to close. We're not going back to the hotel. No breaks, no nothing. That Epcot day, we got off of Ratatouille, and I said, if I don't go back to the hotel right now, because the Skyliner was right there, I'm like, if I don't go back to the hotel right now, I'm going to pass out. Like, I need to lie down. I went back, took like a 2.5 hour nap, which it made it so we didn't get everything done at Epcot we would have liked. But yeah, some of the queues in that park were just, the waits were astronomical that day. It was wild how busy it was for a Monday. Yeah, it would have been Monday. So it was, not conducive to feeling the way I did on that day and trying to enjoy myself. But
doubly wild that also like this has been that time that Disney's been reporting where it's like the lowest attendance in the theme parks right now.
Yeah, the problem with Epcot is Guardians cannot virtual queue for that ride cannot end soon enough. They need more attractions in that park to take people out of the park.
Yeah.
And Guardians will do a great job of pulling people away from the World Showcase where the lines for Ratatouille. And we didn't end up riding Frozen Ever After because the wait was so long. But for the majority of the day, except that day. So our trip, we decided to buy the Genie Plus service for our Magic Kingdom day and our Hollywood Studios day, because those were the two parks where we wanted to ride pretty much every attraction. So we skipped out on it when we were at Epcot and Animal Kingdom, and we rope dropped Avatar at Animal Kingdom, got done what we wanted to get done, and that day went really well. But the Epcot day, for whatever reason, we just could not hit any ride at a good time for that ride, other than Ratatouille.
Well, Epcot
and the
also
fact
has
that we got like boarding group 3 for Guardians. So we were on it before the park opened officially.
I kept getting these messages from Mitch while he was there, and one of the most satisfying ones was we're boarding group 3. Let's go! This is going to be amazing because Guardians is the best.
We were boarding group 3 for Guardians and boarding group 6 for Tron. I don't know how we did it.
That's amazing. We were boarding group. We had to do the 1 o'clock queue for Guardians, and we were boarding group like 1:56.
There's nothing like that 1 o'clock queue when you can see like the people who got it and the people who didn't in the park.
Yeah.
So we actually got to ride Tron twice. So we had tickets to Mickey's Not So Scary on our last night. So we were also trying to get in for I think it's the 6 o'clock boarding group, which they do for those specially ticketed events. And we were sitting at a restaurant, and everyone around you could tell at this point, like the only people still in the parks are here for this event, and everybody is looking down at their phones because everybody wants to get on this ride. And with that one, we also got one of the first boarding groups that boarded during the Halloween party. We were on it before the Halloween party officially started. I don't know there was some voodoo going on with our Disney apps.
So of course, I gotta ask. So first off, Aaron, did you also ride Tron while you were there?
We did not do Tron. We did Guardians, but we skipped out on Tron. When the kid saw how fast it went, he's like, "Nah, I'm good."
Fair. So, not for the faint of heart. So Mitch, I'll ask just you and only you then. How was it? Is it everything that I hope it's going to be?
We got lucky. So the first ride was incredible. After this trip, I said Avatar used to be my favorite attraction at Disney. It is now Guardians. Even
Hands down.
with the experience of Tron, the second time we rode it, my sister and I got front row on Tron. And when I tell you your kid thought that launch was in something from the ground. When you're at the front of that train and you feel that thing go, oh my God. Like, the ride is incredible. It's shorter than I would have hoped, but with the speeds that you're reaching, it's something worth experiencing. I like to grade theme park attractions on how long I'd be willing to wait for it. And most of the time I will cap out at about an hour. I don't feel like waiting more than an hour for really anything. I don't feel like there's enough value in your day to wait more than that amount of time for any given attraction.
Yeah, there's only like 2
So
rides
I would wait
longer
up
than
to
that
an
one.
hour. I would wait up to an hour for that ride. I don't think I'd wait any longer. So when the virtual queue goes away and it's a 2, 3, 4 hour wait, like, no.
Line War, Tron, and Space Mountain, who will have the longer line.
Tron is going to be worse only because it is, as far as I know, the only attraction at Walt Disney World that requires you to use a locker. And the locker system, it's all tied into your park ticket. So if you're using a annual pass ticket versus using a Magic Band versus using your phone, you have to use the way that you entered the park to open and close the locker.
That's really interesting.
It's smart, but at the same time, people aren't going to want to take their phone on the attraction if that's the only park ticket that they have. So there's this whole thing of like, oh, well, if you're not using that, then you can get it at temporary, like, key. It's going to be a mess when it gets to just general admission into that ride.
Yeah, we're seeing more and
guarantee
more of that. Over at Universal for Velocicoaster, they do that, and I think they also do it for one of the Harry Potter rides.
2 of them. They do it for Green Gots and for the Hogwarts ride.
Yeah, I've never been over to the other side with Green Gots.
Okay.
On the list of the many theme park things I need to do in the next however long. But like
Green Gots was stupid fun. I had a great time on that ride.
I know it works really well.
The only other free locker situation I'm aware of at Disney is there is a set of lockers you can use for Cali River Rapids at Animal Kingdom. Most people don't know about it. We used it on this trip, and I will never ride that ride again because that was a stupid long wait for absolutely no payoff.
For Cali, I love that ride.
Griffin. We waited 75 minutes for that one goddamn drop in 100. I don't know. Aaron can do the math. I can't do the conversion. It was like what, like 110 degrees every day, 120.
Yeah,
like
capped out at 112 with humidity and
dang.
brutal.
I was
that's why my
physically
coworkers were
melting
telling me
while
about
we
it.
were waiting for Cali River Rapids. It was not a good look.
See, I love that ride, but like, admittedly, my love for that ride is like 90% nostalgia.
Yeah. Yeah, because that was an opening day attraction for Animal Kingdom, wasn't it?
Something like that. I don't know. I wasn't there. What year did Animal Kingdom open?
99?
Okay, so I was...
Should probably have Google open because I tend to Google stuff while we talk.
I want to go back to you guys for just a second because I have the picture up of you guys in the line. And I just want to point out something that I find hilarious, that you guys are essentially just palette swapped with each other. You both have
I'm probably wearing a black shirt and he's wearing his
you got the black
X-Men
shirt, he's got the white shirt. You both got the hats. He has the backpack. It is one of those just like perfect moments, and I just want to point that out because it's
like someone
hilarious
picked
to me.
the same character in Street Fighter,
Yeah, it's like
and so it just shifts the colors.
yeah, Ken and Blue.
Yeah,
To be fair, 90% of what I wore on that trip was white because coming from Canada, where we were topping out at like, I can't do the math, probably like mid 80s, probably on a good day over the course of the summer. We had a strangely cool summer for Toronto, but to go from like that, like the 30 plus degree shift and that humidity, I knew, like, I was literally melting most days we were outside.
same. Colorado was weirdly cold all summer. It was like 75 most days. We had a lot of rain this year, and like, man, that heat kicked my ass. It was awful.
I wish
So
it's been like
Animal
90s.
Kingdom opened April 22nd, 1998. I was off by a year.
Hey, it's the same age as me.
Neat.
You know what's 30 today?
Something that's gonna
Power
make you feel
Rangers.
old. Oh, that really hurts you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, my sister turned 30 yesterday, but the Power Rangers one really hit home.
All right, let's
How old are you, Mitch?
31.
Oh, You guys both get out of here.
I mean, we know that for me. I like making fun of yellow people. It brings me
All
a
us
sick
folks who were
joy.
born in the 1900s.
Hey, I technically was.
Yeah, I know. Just barely.
For all of us who remember the 1900s.
That is fair.
For all of us, the save button isn't just the save button, but it's a
The
floppy disk.
Oh man.
Okay, let's go back to Guardians because I do want to talk about Guardians. This was both of you
So
guys' first time
good.
writing it, I think.
Yes. Yeah. This is my first time at Disney World, so all of it will be
this
my
is-
first time.
So this is just even more amazing than for you. Yeah. What do you
Yeah.
think? How awesome was it?
Amazing. Somebody told us we should try to get cart 9, and I was like, I'm not going to deal with all that mess. So I'll just, whatever I get with the queues and everything. And then me and my kid get slapped in cart 9. And it was phenomenal. Do you guys know about cart 9? So
I knew that people ask for it, but we just took what we got, honestly. Like, because that was the day where I was doubled over most of the day. So I'm just like,
Yeah.
I need to just get this done and then survive.
yeah. So cart 9 is the one, it's at the very back. So halfway through the ride when all the carts turn, you're front row for that explosion that blows you backwards.
Oh,
Yeah, it's really cool. I've gotten to do it a couple of times. And it is
Yeah.
easily the best cart. I get why people request it. Any cart is fantastic on that ride. Like, you can't go wrong with it.
Yeah, it was awesome. And we felt very lucky because, like I said, we actually had a different family at lunch. Our very first day we did Universal, and at Harry Potter, there was a family who did the exact opposite of us. They did Disney, all of it first, and then their last day was Universal. So they were like, make sure you do Guardians, and if you can get cart 9, do it. And they were like, it's a if you know type of a thing. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then when we got in the line, it was super long. We got to like one of the last, like we were almost to the entrance, and my kid goes, I'm so sorry, I really have to pee. So Rissa and Uriah bust down through the line, get to the bathroom, bust back through with all the excuse me, sorries, get up there. And I was like, at this point, whatever line we're in, or whatever cart we're in. And then they were like, all right, go down to the end, you're in 9. And we're like, oh, cool. So worked out well.
Yeah, I love that ride. The queue especially is great. The only thing I don't love about it is that the room you go in, the pre-show room, and leaving it is just an absolute melee.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
wild.
which I don't understand with the fact that they're still doing the virtual queuing. Like, we walked through 90% of the queue having our spot in line, right? So like, what? I don't understand the mentality of let's rush through here to get ahead of everyone else. Like, I didn't even know where the door was going to open when we wrote it. I was like, we'll get through this when we get through it.
I
Yeah, that's what
especially
we
don't
did.
understand it with Rise of the Resistance being right there and it doing something similar, right? Of open up the doors into this massive area, and it's so tight knit with how they have theming of Rise of the Resistance.
Yeah.
Oh, so another thing that I wanted to touch on briefly, you know what? No, we'll get to Rise later because it was Aaron's first time, and I've got a fun story about our.
We can jump to
Rise,
Rise. That
right?
was
Let's
my
jump to
favorite
Rise.
attraction. We rode it 3 times. So
Dang.
we were.
You really
we were
love Rise.
Oh my God, we loved it. So the very first day at Disney was a Tuesday, and it was dead. And we rope dropped Rise, and we had 0-minute wait time. Like, we just walked right into the ride. And then when we got out, it was at a 30-minute wait time. So we jumped back in line and did it again. And then we walked over to the Millennium Falcon, which had a 10-minute wait time. Jumped in there. I got to be the pilot, which was fantastic. And then we did Star Wars for we were probably there for 4 hours just on Batuu. Like, I was, as
You
a
did
Star
a whole
Wars
day
fan.
at one part of the park.
Yeah.
I would plan my next trip around having an entire Batu day.
Yeah.
Dude,
oh my
God.
God. It
I
was
legitimately want
phenomenal.
to at some point. Like, I don't know if you saw anybody, but people will legitimately dress up and they call it Batu bound. And like, I have a character. I want to do it because it just sounds so fun.
Even we had Magic Band Pluses we bought for this trip, and there's the whole Bounty Hunter experience as well, which I started, and just as we were walking around Batu and my mom and sister were doing some shopping or they were just chilling, I'm like, I'm gonna go hunt some bounties. And those little experiences that maybe not everyone is doing, but it gives you there's so much to do outside of just those 2 attractions in that one themed area, which is really cool.
I know, because we got reservations to the cantina. We did that whole thing, got our blue milks, the whole 9. But we loved it so much that on our last day when we met Mitch, we did half a day at Animal Kingdom, and then we actually bussed over to his hotel, not with Mitch, he stayed at Animal Kingdom, but we bussed back to his hotel and then took the Skyline over to Hollywood, and we went back to finish the day at Star Wars again, and then that's when we did our third night of ride.
How was the extra free ride? Because I know we were talking about it with you and your son, and it was just like, okay, you can get this extra free attraction in and get to do the thing that you want to do. So like, was that the right call?
Oh yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, I'm glad. I didn't want to like send you to our hotel and it was like an absolute nightmare and like all that.
So that was super easy to get on, and then your hotel was super cool. And like that's where we decided to stop and like reapply sunscreen and like get all just kind of, and we hit the bathrooms and everything. And while we were doing all that, I was just cruising your lobby at all the really awesome nostalgia stuff. It was awesome. And then all the desk people came out and did like a dance number in front of everybody, and like that was really cool. And then we're like, all right, let's get on the Skyline.
So where did you guys stay, by the way?
Where did I stay? I stayed at French Quarter, New Orleans.
Where do you stay?
We were at Pop Century.
Pop Century, okay.
Yeah. French Quarter was awesome, beautiful. Really felt like, I know it's close to New Orleans, but literally felt like we were in New Orleans. We took the water taxi over to Disney Springs, which was a lot of fun. We got to see some beautiful, like, kind of cabins in the backwoods through the park too. Yeah, me and Riss watched a bunch of the Disney documentary series. I can't think of the name. The one about the attractions.
Behind the Attractions.
Behind the Attractions. And the one that does all the different modes of transportation that Disney was built in, we were like, let's try to hit as many as we could. So when Mitch was like, hey, that's at our hotel, we were all about it. We are like, yep, that'll check another one off the list. Because we just wanted to do as many of those things as we could. And man, it was awesome. The water taxi was, like I said, a blast. It was great.
I think the only mode of transportation we missed on this trip was the monorail, which was kind of disappointing.
Same. Yeah,
so that's the other reason I love staying at those the Epcot resorts in the lagoon there. I love that boat.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
It was like weirdly satisfying. Like if I am ever to end up in a position where I could ever possibly retire, which will never happen, I would love to just be one of those boat drivers. Like that seems like just such the ideal job. Like you're just ferrying people around hotels on a boat on a lake all day. Like it just is so nice.
our first day there, we ended up on the water taxi because we had planned no park day the day we arrived. We just wanted to kind of get settled at our hotel and go out for a nice dinner. So we actually went to the Italian restaurant that's at the Swan Resort, which the Swan and Dolphin Resort are on Disney property, but they're operated by Marriott. But they're on that water taxi route. So we walked from Hollywood Studios to the hotel because I said, hey, it's only 10 minutes and the boat's not here. And my family instantly hated me for the rest of the trip because we walked instead of waiting for the boat. But we took the boat back to the Skyliner. Yeah. Look. Yeah.
The boat shows up like every 15 minutes. It's just patience.
We beat it to the hotel. So I'm still proud of the fact that I made the right call.
Oh, I mean, that's fair. I used to walk it, and when I would wake up early enough, I would run that loop. It's actually like really fun to go out there. Like if you go out there on a morning and seeing like there's a lot of people that run that loop. Like I'm convinced
Pop
that
Century and Art of Animation are the same way because there's essentially Pop Century and Art of Animation are two resorts on the side of this, like either side of this man-made lake, Hourglass Lake. And in the middle of it now is where the Skyliner station is, but there is like a 1.3 mile loop that you can just run around these two resorts. And it's kind of neat to see, like every morning we would be leaving and there are people out running this loop. It was interesting to see people that invested in their health, whereas I'm going to, eat Dole Whip and spring rolls and
well, here's the wonderful thing about Disney during a heat wave. You sweat it all off.
Oh yeah,
it's all.
I legitimately lost weight on this trip.
Yeah, I broke even, which I was very proud of. So, I was like, oh, sweet. I came back at the exact same weight as when I left, and I was like, done, because we ate whatever we wanted. At one point at French Quarter, we ordered 2 orders of the beignets. We got the regular Mickey beignets, and then we did the Oreo with green frosting Halloween beignets.
Oh, they're gonna say the boozy ones, because that's what I wanted to get over to French Quarter for.
Oh, I didn't even know they had boozy.
So was everything set up, by the way, for Halloween? Like I know Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party was happening. And Mitch,
it was gorgeous.
Oh, it was happening.
So the giant pumpkin.
Such a basic white girl who loves fall.
They didn't do a pumpkin this year.
Guess what I've been drinking this whole time.
PSL?
PSL.
Griffin, there was no pumpkin this year at
Really?
Mickey's Not So Scary.
Huh.
I was very surprised that they didn't have the pumpkin set up.
I wonder if it's just not up yet. No, but normally they put that thing up first.
You'd
no?
think they'd have it up for the first party. They usually do. But
Aaron, have you ever seen pictures of this pumpkin? So it is a gigantic pumpkin Mickey head.
That's amazing.
It is genuinely amazing. I've gotten to see it. It's super fun. So, but we were talking about Halloween stuff. Let's talk about Magic Kingdom as well. I want to just rapid fire through some attractions, especially for you, Aaron, since it was your first time. And this one, Mitch, because you and I have talked about it. How was Haunted Mansion?
This is where I'm jealous of Mitch. So it was closed while we were there.
Oh, boo.
And then it turns out we were at Magic Kingdom the same day as Mitch. We just never crossed paths.
Yeah.
And it opened in the evening, which Mitch found out about and got to jump on it. We didn't know. We thought it was closed like through the duration. So we ended up leaving. We never got on it. I've ridden it at Disneyland, which I loved, but we were really bummed. We had like a list, like a checklist of everything we wanted to jump on. And that was one of the Magic Kingdom, like, don't miss it rides. And when we saw it closed for renovation, we were very sad. And then it turns out it opened that night and we just missed it.
Yeah, I mean, the original plan for the ride, like when I was planning our trip, I knew it was going to be closed for like the 3 days prior to our trip. But the day that we planned to be at Magic Kingdom, which was the first full day of our trip, which turns out we didn't cross paths, but the start of our trip was the exact same as the end of your trip, which is kind of funny, the symmetry there. But I knew and was watching the app all day. Like, this is going to open and it's going to be like a 2-3 hour wait and it's going to be dumb and we're not going to get in line for it. We stopped to have dinner at Columbia Harbor House, which is in Liberty Square, the area of the park where Haunted Mansion is. And I would highly recommend, if you're looking for quick service that has air conditioning, Columbia Harbor House is the spot.
Also, just
it's
very,
kind of
very
off the
good
beaten
chicken
path. So my mom and I split the platter that they have, which is like chicken strips and hush puppies and shrimp and
fish and chips, I believe.
Battered fish. Yeah. And it was like $13 or $14. And the fact that we could take this one meal and split it between the two of us, it was kind of nice. I missed the dining plan. I'm not gonna lie. I kind of wish the dining plan had existed. But
me too.
Part of the reason we booked the trip is we were able to get a dining credit as part of the room reservation. So we were able to use that, I think, up until we used the last of it on the day, our third park day. So we had 4 full park days and the Halloween party. So it was only our 4th park day and the Halloween party where we were paying for most food out of pocket. So we were able to stretch it a lot further than I had expected us to.
Impressive.
So for those who are on the fence about the Disney dining plan coming back next year and want to weigh the pros and cons, if you want to indulge, dining plan is the way to do it. Get booze with every meal, do it up. But if you want to, like, you can do Disney at a reasonable rate. I don't think I spent more than maybe $50 a day on food on any given day, except our Hollywood Studios day. The one meal my sister insisted we do was the the rodeo roundup barbecue, all you can enjoy restaurant in Toy Story Land.
Oh,
which
nice.
It wasn't, I don't think it was worth the price of admission for the food, but that was the best service we'd had anywhere in the parks. Our server was fantastic. Shout out to Matt working the rodeo barbecue. He was phenomenal.
I feel like service by and
some of the
large,
food was really good, but
service, like tableside service, particularly in Hollywood Studios, is like weirdly good compared to the rest of the. Like, it's great everywhere because, like, Disney does have that level, but I feel like it's somehow even better in Hollywood Studios consistently.
Yeah, the 2 nice meals that we had, everything else was quick service, but we did at Hollywood on Tuesday, we did Mama Melrose's, which was fantastic Italian food. Loved it. And then we did the rotating restaurant on Wednesday. I'm trying to think what park that is.
In Epcot?
It's a big... Hey, babe, which park was the rotating restaurant in?
Or was it the Magic Kingdom? Is there one?
Wasn't it Magic?
I'm thinking of the like Space 22.
It was at Epcot. Yeah, it was at Epcot.
Space 220, I think is.
It's the big jungle rotating restaurant or homestead, and then they just like bring you a bunch of like really.
Yeah, that one. I Don't know
home
the
cooked
name.
food, and that was one. It was one of the character dining experiences.
The Garden Grill.
Probably.
I just Googled Disney rotating restaurant. That's the first thing that came up.
And say now the Garden Grill's a
Yeah, Garden Grill.
Garden. Oh,
Yeah. Yep.
I'm wrong.
That was
Ignore
awesome.
me.
And that was also, it was just really expensive, but it was good.
Yeah,
It was really
right.
expensive for us because we also surprised the kid. They did the Mickey birthday cake. Like the characters came and did happy birthday with him. And like, that was awesome.
That's a great experience for him and for you though. So like
Yeah.
I get like it's one of those things like I would not pay the $45 a person that we paid for the barbecue because it's not the best barbecue I've ever had. But
Right.
to get the experience of being in the restaurant and Sid comes into the backyard or there's a yard sale and all the toys are like Partysaurus Rex comes on and like all the lights start doing their thing.
Oh,
Like
amazing.
it's a fun experience, especially if you have kids that are into Toy Story. Like for us, it probably wasn't like we aren't the target demographic, but the barbecue sides at that restaurant were actually out of this world. The barbecue itself has room to improve.
That's kind of how I feel
Same
about
with Garden Grill. Like the main course stuff was fine, but the sides were like phenomenal.
That's kind of how I felt about Be Our Guest, where it's like the food is all right. The food, it's actually probably one of the better spots in Magic Kingdom, in my opinion. But it's always the theming, like
Right.
being in the ballroom from Beauty and the Beast is just such a cool experience for all of that, and I'm sure it's the same with Toy Story.
It is and it isn't. Did I tell you my experience at Be Our Guest on my last trip?
Probably. We've talked about so many Disney things.
So
with Mitch and all those together.
I've been to Walt Disney World 3 times, twice as an adult and once as a kid. The first time I went as an adult was in I'm gonna get in a lot of trouble. 2018,
So be careful. That's when you proposed, right?
and it is when I proposed to my now wife. I did the proposal as early as I could in the day because I needed to get it done. And I was able to do it early in the day with very few people in the park because I was able to get us a breakfast reservation at Be Our Guest.
Oh, nice.
I didn't think about the fact that after surprising my wife with an engagement ring, that she's not going to eat most of the day. So we get to this meal. She's like, I can't eat. Like I ordered food and I'm shaking. Like I can't eat this food. So I ended up eating both breakfasts at Be Our Guest. Which at the time, like for lunch and dinner service, it was sit down table, like full service. But breakfast was still a quick service option, even though you were seated, you needed a reservation, all this stuff. So we were able to kind of like sneak in there, enjoy this really nice restaurant, and I enjoyed it a lot. And Carmen could barely like breathe. So advice to anyone out there: do what the 7 different people that I saw do. And that was proposed at night, right before Happily Ever After, as opposed to first thing in the morning. Although you won't get the same kind of pictures that we were able to get with doing things the way we did.
Yeah, it's
I'm sorry. I have to go put aloe on my kid. We went a week without getting him sunburned at all at Disney. I was religious with sunscreen with my little redheaded kid. And he goes to the pool for 6th grade. They did a pool trip. He goes to the pool one day without me, and he looks like a friggin' lobster. So I'm sorry. I will be off camera for just like 2 minutes.
You go do the lobster thing.
No worries. In the meantime, I can
we'll power through without you.
Mitch, because there's some questions I had for you specifically, Mitch, particularly about you getting COVID while you were at the park. Mm-hmm. Like, damn, dude, that just sucks, first and foremost.
Yeah, I mean, going to Florida where they don't believe that COVID exists, and I know that's, hyperbole and an exaggeration, and I do know that there are people that take it very seriously everywhere, but Florida is one of those places where, like, yeah, I went to Florida. Of course I got COVID in Florida. And it was one of those things of, I felt fine. We had our day, like our down day, or not even our day, like we had that Animal Kingdom day, where we ran into Aaron and his family, and then went back to the hotel. We're like, okay, we got back early because Animal Kingdom closes weirdly early for a theme park. It was like,
well, yeah, all those
7:00 or something.
Yeah, all the animals
weird.
Don't make for a great time-wise.
Yeah, that's understandable. So we got back real early. So like, oh, let's go for a swim. We'll enjoy the resort a little bit, and then tomorrow we've got a day off. So we go to the pool. We do the pool thing, and then I wake up the next day and can't hear in my left ear. which is less than ideal when you're on vacation. More so when you're traveling out of country, because if anyone has had to deal with out of country medical insurance, especially if you're traveling to the United States, it can be the stories you hear about the challenges of the U.S. medical system are exacerbated when you're traveling internationally. And I'll leave it at that. So it was the day of contact the insurance company, find out where the closest clinic is, go to the clinic. Yet I've always had an issue with earwax buildup. So I assumed it had been that, and it was. They were able to clear that. But the nurse cautioned me and said, we should really get you some eardrops because this looks like it's going to get infected, which for the last week, I've been dealing with an ear infection that came from that trip. So Florida just won't go away. No. So we spent our down day basically going to this this walk-in clinic, which silver lining, there was a Publix, which is a grocery chain in the same plaza as said walk-in clinic. So instead of just getting in an Uber and going back to the hotel, I said, hey, you know what Florida has that Canada doesn't? Hard Mountain Dew. So we went over to this Publix, and god damn if they didn't have a case of Hard Mountain Dew, a variety pack that I very meticulously packed and brought back to Canada. So
we just got that.
All in Canada want to hit me up and have a Mountain Dew party. You know where I'm at.
We just got that in Oregon, and every time I go to the grocery store now, there's just this gigantic stack of Hard Mountain Dew every time I enter.
It's so good. Like, I tried it for the first time when we were in Vegas, when we did the Disneyland trip, which I'm sure we talked about on the show.
Oh, absolutely.
So I tried it in Vegas where we had like the King cans because we stopped at a gas station and they were like $1.50 or something stupid because it was Vegas off the strip. But I wanted to try the rest of them. So when I saw this variety pack of like the stubby cans, I'm like, oh, this is coming home with me. And we haven't gotten into them yet, but we're gonna have a few fun parties. We have some friends over and just sample them all. So there was some silver lining to that walk-in clinic day. But the next day I woke up, or not the next day. So the next day was our Hollywood Studios day. I felt fine. But towards the end of that meal, the barbecue meal I was talking about, I'm like, I'm feeling kind of uneasy. I don't know if it's queasy or if it's in my head. Like I was starting to feel a little unwell. Woke up the following day for our Epcot day. I'm like, I feel like absolute dog duty. It was not pleasant.
So you felt like absolute shit when you were writing Figment, weren't you?
Yeah.
Oh,
that was the last ride I rode at Epcot. That's how I ended the
so
day.
Proud of myself.
Other than the fireworks.
I need to bring up a picture of that we'll talk about this when Aaron gets back. But yeah. It's hilarious.
So that Epcot day was challenging, and when we my sister ended up catching it as well, COVID that is. So we got back. She felt the worst of it when we got back. I had the worst of it on our Epcot day. The day we got back from our trip, no joke, she slept for 17 hours.
Damn.
Partly the fatigue from Disney and then partly the fatigue from COVID.
Yeah, I guess actually think about it. When I got COVID, I was bedridden for
the fact she called me the day after. She's like, I slept 17 hours. How in the hell did you survive a Disney trip feeling like this? Like, very, very lucky, I guess, because it was just the adrenaline of being there pushed me through that Epcot day, and then I started it was really only that one day where I felt like, the horses behind. And the rest of the following days, I still felt kind of crappy, and I was coughing a bunch and doing my best to protect others, coughing into my sleeve, wearing a mask when necessary, things like that. Because at the time, I didn't travel with any COVID tests, so I just had to assume I had COVID because I had a bunch of symptoms of COVID, and just do my best to protect those around me, which I didn't do a good job of since my whole family came home with COVID. But it was definitely a challenge that Epcot day, and I'm disappointed that it happened, but I'm glad that even though we did have to take that 2.5 hour, we planned to go back to the hotel. So Aaron talked a bit about the nice meals they had. Our nice meals, we had the day we arrived, we went to the Swan to the Italian restaurant there. We had the barbecue, which wasn't a quote unquote nice meal, but it was the fun meal. And then our Epcot day, we had dinner at Via Napoli, which I had some of the best wood fire oven pizza I've ever had in my entire life. No joke. That pizza was one of the most cost-effective meals we had, because we just got one pizza and split it between the three of us. But it was one of the best pizzas I've ever had, just hands down, just flat out, Disney or otherwise. my sister had been to Italy in the last couple of years. She's like, this tastes like what we had in Italy. Like this is Italian, like real good Italian pizza. And
That's
it was
awesome.
Oh, it was such good. It was funny though, because we ordered this pizza and my mom and sister are like, oh, they got really interesting cocktails. They had like they had an espresso martini, which my sister's all about, and
Classic.
they had a tiramisu martini, which my mom saw that and was like, oh, let's give this one a shot. We got to the end of the meal, like they told the server, let's have those as dessert. That'll be our nightcap to this meal. We got to the end of the pizza and they're both sitting there like they each got through like a slice or two, and we had like an 8-slice pizza. They got through like a slice or two. They're like, Mitch, we can't eat. Like, can you just, or either that or we're taking it back to the hotel. I'm like, I'll power through. So I ate like half of this family style pizza, and they get through a slice or two, like, yeah, remember those drinks that we ordered? Let's not do that. And that was the right call. But
Dude,
I would
getting
love
like
to go back there.
getting a pizza like that and having it in your hotel room is like an underrated move. Like it is so good to have that.
So I think it was the Animal Kingdom day, since the day ended so early, we ended our day at Animal Kingdom at Nomad Lounge, which is connected to one of the table service restaurants in that park. I can't remember the name of the restaurant. They had some really nice cocktails and some. Honestly, the churros at this restaurant put the Disneyland churros to shame. And I know, Griffin, with that being your home park, that's probably blasphemy, but like these churros were legit. No, they were something else, Griffin. I'm just saying they were okay.
I refuse to believe Mitch. No, okay. I'm
Best
sure
churros I've ever had. But no, so like we ended our day at this lounge, but we didn't eat dinner, and Animal Kingdom closes weirdly early, like I was saying while you were away, Aaron. So we got back to the hotel. We went to the pool, and while we were at the pool, we mobile ordered a whole pizza from the restaurant at the hotel and just ate it in our room, which was a good call. Because again, like pizza is one of the most cost effective, and it's hard to mess up pizza. Like even the Disney like hotel pizza, it was like, oh, this is like Chuck E. Cheese meets Pizza Hut. Like it wasn't out of this world phenomenal, but it was like it was.
That's a perfect description though. Monday night after Universal, we were just hungry and didn't want to figure it out, and we wanted to go to the hotel and get rested up before Disney, and that's what we did at French Quarter. We just ordered a pizza and
it's really all you need. It's not anything special, but it gets the job done. I want to go back to some rides. Oh, unless you got something you want to say really fast.
Just really quick. I know we already talked about Star Wars, but I did.
Let's go back. I want to talk about Star Wars all day.
I was gonna say, I wanted to go back to your lightsaber.
Yeah, it was beautiful and amazing.
Let's do the thing we do every time we talk about this stuff. Here we go. I love that we have 3 different styles here.
Yeah, you went for the like earthy looking one, with the leather grip. I loved that one. Mm-hmm. It was between the High Republic era one and that one.
So I want to go back and do a High Republic one.
Yeah.
But like, I love the earthy look of it. This is the same lightsaber I used in the Jedi Survivor game.
Oh, nice.
My plan when I built this, so I built this when we did our Disneyland trip in the fall of 2022. My plan was to do the High Republic, but I got there and they said, "Oh, we have your choices. Like we have one guard, we have one. Like you'd have to use the same." Like the center pieces, the cylinder pieces, you'd have to use we only have one of those available, so you have to use the same one for both. Like there just weren't options. So that's why I ended up going with like kind of the classic classic Jedi looking lightsaber. That's what I want to do the High Republic, but there just weren't pieces available. And I had, without a doubt, the worst experience I've ever had spending that kind of money on that experience because my lightsaber didn't light up.
Oh no.
Yeah, so imagine going through that whole thing and then it just doesn't ignite.
Oh, that's a bummer.
And we did, so on that Disneyland trip, we did the cantina right after, and I was already so bummed out. I'm like, I'm going to get like one non-alcoholic beverage, not tip, and I want to go back to the hotel as quickly as possible. Like, it ruined the rest of that Disneyland
So it sucked for Mitch. Aaron, how was it for you?
I loved it. I loved every second of it. The kid made a Sith saber. He was the only one who picked red. The room had a good laugh over that. Like, it was awesome. The whole show of it all was really cool. Like, yeah, absolutely loved it. They had all the High Republic pieces for me, so I was stoked about that.
Yeah,
there was
moment for me.
There was one, the Sith saber that my kid made. They were missing like 1 or 2 of the pieces, but he didn't care. He still went with that one.
Yeah, I remember it being such a it is that moment that lights up that makes it so special. So like I get why that ruined it for you, Mitch. But when you were able to have it and like it all comes together the way you want it, it really is a special experience.
Yeah, it's super cool.
Expensive as all hell, but like
Yeah, which was
gonna
one thing
remember
that I
Kyber
set
crystal.
money, and I set money aside for that. Like first thing, I was like, hey, when we go, we're all three of us are building lightsabers. Like it's just happening.
Yeah.
it's a
And
real
I told
fun
the
thing,
kid, I was like, this is your birthday present is Disney and a lightsaber. Everything else is on you. And kudos to him. He saved up a ton of money for like 6 months and like almost all of his allowance. And so he had stuff that he wanted to do. But he also wore his birthday pin everywhere. And I've never seen so much free ice cream. Everywhere he went, he'd be like, oh, I'm going to go get ice cream. I'm like, cool, you got your money.
I feel like
And he'd
now
walk
they're
up.
gonna do me.
Yeah, he'd walk up and he'd be like, oh, can I get, the dipped bar? He's like, can I get one of those, please? And they're like, on the house. Happy birthday. Everywhere. The
Yeah, you
funniest part, though, is
melted.
at Animal Kingdom,
I
he
kept
got
telling my sister to put her pin back on, and she wouldn't do it. But I think when you're celebrating 30 is a little different than if you're celebrating
12.
like 12.
Yeah. The funniest one was at Animal Kingdom, though. He got this huge cone and he ran over to tell me that it was free, and he was running with ice cream in
Oh,
Florida.
no.
And so, like, as soon as he ran, just and like, he's my kid. He doesn't get upset over much, so he just like started laughing really hard, and it was fine. He finished what was left of it, and we were good. But that was pretty great. I was like, "That's what you get for like rubbing it in my face, dude."
Say, the only free ice cream we got is my sister bought one of those Mickey Dip ice cream bars at Magic Kingdom, and I think the day we're at Magic Kingdom was probably like the hottest day in the record of the planet Earth because it was like 47 degrees Celsius. He opens the package with the ice cream bar, goes to pull out the stick
It just
with the
popped
ice
out.
cream on it. And the only thing that came out was the stick because the rest of it was melted in the bag.
Yeah.
So she turns around to the dude. Like she's literally walked like 3 feet away from this cart, turns around and got just like, here you go. Don't worry about it. So, and I'm the asshole that said, can I see the melted one for a second? And opened it up and like, how much of this can I shovel in my mouth before I look like an absolute monster?
You look like an absolute monster immediately, but you do it anyways.
You do it
Right.
anyway. So I think the mistake that I made, and I just want to put this out there for anyone else who's thinking about building one of these things, don't be dissuaded by the experience that I had. I went out of my way to be extra as part of the ceremony and bought a yellow Kyber crystal prior to the build. And I got a great moment with the person who's in there helping you assemble it of like, oh, we've got a smuggler amongst us, I see, because I brought in my own junk or my own scrap. But I think the yellow specifically, there are some issues with getting the saber base to recognize it. So that's probably what had happened. If I had just gone with the blue that I have in there right now, because you still go home with whichever one you choose. And I wanted to get a violet one this time and they were all out, which was kind of disappointing when I went the day after I saw you, Aaron, with full intentions of buying myself a Kyber crystal as a souvenir. It's like, oh, they don't have violets. So do I want white or do I want red? And just left with neither. And instead... Oh, what did I don't even remember what I got myself. I don't think I got a souvenir from Galaxy's Edge other than taking home a full set of the
coasters.
Oga's Cantina coasters.
Dude,
I spent most of my money at Epcot on Guardian stuff, to be honest.
yeah, that's how I was.
We did a lot of Star Wars stuff. We bought Sabacc. We came home and played that with some friends,
How
and it
was
was so
that?
fun that
I was tempted by that.
So much fun. It was great. It was so fun that now for Halloween we're actually doing a Star Wars themed Halloween party, and we're gonna have a poker night where everybody comes over and plays Sabacc, and they're all gonna dress up as Star Wars characters. So.
That feels like a thing I need to buy as both a Star Wars nerd and a board game nerd.
100%.
Super fun.
It crosses so many boxes off your list. The one thing I regret not buying, and I sort of just like saw it out of the corner of my eye and kept going, was the belt clip for the lightsaber.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I've got to need that.
I mean, I gotta get a friend of mine loves 3D printing, so I gotta get him to 3D print me like a. He actually, I'll grab it and show you, but he 3D printed the stand that I have the lightsaber base on, and I'm gonna get him to 3D print a D-ring holder for my belt because my plan is to have this and go out and buy a Jedi robe and just be a Jedi for every Halloween from now to the end of time, because that's what you do when you spend an asinine amount of money on this metal plastic toy.
Yep, I bought the Jedi shirt too.
I'll tell you what,
so.
one of my favorite things about this is just taking it apart and putting it back together.
Oh, so I have a story about that. Is this will forever be in this crystal because it has this beautiful like through line, And when I swapped my crystal out, I finally got these pieces to match up because they don't perfectly match up when you screw them on. And so I don't know if I'll ever touch it again because I was so stoked that I got it down through the button all the way through to the bottom. I was like, oh, well, that's that forever.
That's why I have the one that I do. It's I can play with it.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't matter if you unscrew it and all that kind of stuff.
Really squeaky, but
I was gonna say mine will never line up. The threads just don't work. I talked to the guy when I was there because I was having all these issues. I'm like, why doesn't it line up? He's like, well, every piece is unique, so this is uniquely off center just for you. And I'm just like, you piece.
Yeah, that's what they told. Riss was also like trying to get it, and like she wasn't even trying to do that. She was just trying to get it to work. And he's like, hey, don't worry about trying to get it all centered. Like it's not gonna work that way. So when mine randomly finally clicked into place, I was like, well, never touching that again. This white saber is white, and it will forever be white because it looks exactly how I want it to.
Well, I mean, with the High Republic stuff, it's like white or yellow is perfect. So,
yeah, exactly.
I didn't recently rewatch Rebels, and I'm like, oh yes, the Temple Guards with their yellow blades. Like, yes.
I'm not playing KOTOR or trying to finish KOTOR for the first time for like the 5th time.
Shocking, folks. We're Star Wars nerds here.
Right? I know. I started it on Switch. KOTOR.
It's so
I've
difficult
beat it so
to
many
play.
times, but
I've never beaten it. I've tried
really?
like 5 times at this point. I've got a taco bet with a friend of mine where if I can finish it for the first time by the end of the year, he'll buy me tacos. Otherwise, I owe him tacos. So I'm committed. I've even told myself, like, I'm not playing Starfield. I'm not playing Baldur's Gate 3. And I'm not playing Spider-Man 2, my most anticipated game of the year, until I finish this damn Star Wars game. And I haven't touched it since I got back from Disney. I'm still on, like, the 2nd planet. Like, I've made 0 progress.
Man.
Okay, I want to go back to a couple more attractions because selfishly, I want to know, Aaron, your opinions on some of the stuff that I love. So let's keep it within Hollywood Studios. Obviously, you all did the Star Wars stuff. That's great. Were you guys able to get over to Tower of Terror and Rock and Roller Coaster over there?
Oh, yeah.
No. Rip.
I know.
I mentioned there's a very few attractions where I will stand in line for hours to ride. Tower of Terror is one of those attractions.
We tried to ride it a second time. Yeah, we tried to ride it a second time the day we were there because the first time we didn't get a great photo. But we only ended up only riding it the one time.
We had really bad luck. Our Hollywood Studios day was our bad luck day. Luckily, Star Wars was amazing, but Tower of Terror and Slinky Dog broke. And it was down for hours and hours. Yeah. And so we just never ended up making it happen.
Yeah, our Hollywood Studios day, Slinky Dog was closed for a while, opened back up, but they were only using half of the train. So we had a lightning lane. That was one of the days where we splurged for Genie Plus. So we had a lightning lane for Slinky Dog, and we still waited probably 45 minutes in this line that was like a 210-minute wait.
Yeah.
It was wild.
Yeah. Even when we went back on Friday, Slinky Dog was down again.
Yeah, it has a rough time in that heat. Like that humidity is not good for that attraction.
Yeah, it's it's a rough one, and that line especially too. Like just
that queue is awful.
It's horrible.
It's absolutely awful in the Florida heat, like the Florida sun.
Is forever will be I don't care if I'm riding it. I am getting the lightning lane. Like we're just rolling with it.
We wouldn't have ridden it without the lightning lane, and even then, it was probably a mistake.
So other rides. Going back over to Animal Kingdom, were you able to get on Expedition Everest?
Yep. So fun. Loved it.
We got front row on that one, and doing that in front row with my sister for the first time. When we got to the edge, she's like, "Where's the rest of it?" Oh man, that one moment was worth spending what we did on this entire trip.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, the moment of going backwards for the first time is such a great moment.
Luckily, since we were a party of 3, there was a lot of instances where one of us, usually me, either rode alone or rode with a stranger. But that was one of the ones where my mom rode on her own. But the guy that got into the car with her was like, he was a regular, you could tell. And he's just like, "Oh, this is your first time in this attraction." So he was like, "At this point, I'm going to let you know when you need to brace yourself. Otherwise, you're going to have neck pain for the rest of the day and you'll thank me later." And he was really good about it. So like, people are just like, there's people that go to Disney and then are just overly nice to everybody else they run into and are just like they overshare and everyone is like swapping stories and stuff like that. And then there are the devil parents, as I like to call them, that are just like miserable the entire time, yelling at their kids, pulling on their kids. And I feel bad for folks that are in that situation because I know how much can go into the planning of a trip like this, that I understand where people can get frustrated. We got frustrated with each other a couple of times on this trip. It kind of what happens with how trips work for most of us. There's always going to be feelings that boil over, but
I'm a big proponent of when you're going with people and you're able to. Not everyone's able to do it, especially like if you're going with your kids, like you were, Aaron. Of like if you're adults and you can split up for a ride every once in a while, because like you're gonna save yourself some bickering.
I did that at one point. I think it was the Epcot day. There was a bit of bickering going on, and I basically said, like, we all know where the hotel is. We all have Wi-Fi here. I'm gonna go off and do what I want to do for a little bit, and just like do the shopping that I wanted to do, or just people watch the way I wanted it to, and just cool off a little bit, because that was also the day where I was feeling at my absolute worst on this trip because of the illness, right? So it was necessary at times to, especially when you're spending a full week together and you're in the same room at all times, like it can help to, do your own thing for a few minutes.
Okay, I got one final ride I want to ask about, and then we can hit whatever you guys want to talk about. There's one particular ride in Epcot, Aaron, that is extremely important to me. I don't know if you read it. In fact, I would doubt you wrote it. Did you ride Journey into Imagination with Figment?
No, we did ride Carousel of Progress, though, just for the air conditioning.
Fair. That's one of the best reasons to go.
Or not Carousel of Progress. We did that one, too, but the...
Spaceship Earth?
Thank you. We did
I also
Earth.
love that ride. That ride is fantastic.
That was so fun. It was really interesting.
Not at all 30 minutes long or anything, but...
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, in case you didn't know, folks, I had one request of Mitch the entire time he was at Disney, and that was to go ride Journey into Imagination with Figment.
And to be fair, since I was sick that day, I almost forgot that I had promised this, and we got to the end of the day, and all of the attractions that we wanted to do, like Test Track was a 90-minute wait, Frozen was like a 70-minute wait, but we had a single lightning lane to use at Epcot, because the day before, when we were at Hollywood Studios, the last attraction that we tried to get on at the end of the night when it was a 20-minute wait was Rise of the Resistance. And guess what happened when we got through the all of the pre-shows and we were into that big room? We stood there for about 20 minutes, and they told us the ride was shutting down for the rest of the day.
Oh,
rip.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mitch,
so they gave us a lightning lane that we could use on any attraction at any park other than the ones that require an individual lightning lane purchase, which meant we couldn't use it on Guardians, which would have been great. But we thought about using it on Frozen. But the problem was when we got in that queue for Rise of the Resistance, my mom didn't want to ride it again. So only me and my sister went through the queue. So only me and my sister got that lightning lane for the following day. So we didn't really want to split up. So we didn't actually take advantage of that on our Epcot day. But we were very tempted to be like, all right, we're just going to use this for Frozen or Test Track or something. We walk over to Test Track and it goes down as we're walking up to it. So it's like, well, now what do we do? The day's almost over. The fireworks are about to start.
I love how Mitch is delaying trying to break my heart. Like, I know he's going to break my heart, but...
I look over, I see this damn building, and my brain goes, oh shit, Griffin had one ask. I have to do it. And I dragged my family onto this thing. They had no idea what they were getting themselves into. And we got off this ride.
Let me read this message. There are two wonderful messages I got. One, I hope you're happy, lol. Before the ride. After the ride, what did I just experience?
That is the dichotomy of Figment.
I love Journey into Imagination with Figment because Journey into Imagination with Figment is a fever dream in the best possible way to be. It is dumb. It is weird. It used to be this fantastic, like, highly beloved ride before it was changed into the current iteration way back when, like before even I was around. But it's weird, and more importantly than anything, I needed Mitch to see Eric Idle as the Boon.
I don't have words. Unfortunately, one of the rooms had no sound, so we didn't get the whole song. But I am glad, and I think this will probably transition into our next topic, which is some of the nighttime spectacles or some of the shows. I am glad that we rode that ride before seeing the Epcot Forever fireworks display at the end of the night, because I didn't realize how much of that was just going to be the song from Journey into Imagination. And it is pretty much just that song.
That song is amazing. Like, I stand by it.
Yeah, nothing against that song. That was a blast, but
it's literally just Eric Idle. It's an update. Eric Idle the Moon, like Aaron, I beg of you to Google this because it is
Okay.
downright
It's a trip.
traumatizing.
Okay. I'll
Yeah,
Google
like
it.
one of the things for us on this trip, and this was one of the things that my mom had to do, was like every park that had shows or fireworks, we had to see most of the shows, and we always had to see the fireworks. So that Epcot day, even though I was feeling at my absolute worst, we found a great spot right at the tip of the France Pavilion to sit down and watch this thing, and had a great time. The other thing with our Epcot day was one of the things that we did before the power nap that was absolutely necessary is there were two things going on at Epcot. There was the food and wine festival, which meant there was a whole bunch of sample size food you could get at a reasonable price, and we took advantage of that.
Great stuff.
I had a great spicy margarita in the Mexico Pavilion. That was out of this world, and a great tostada. But the other thing that coincides with the food and wine festival is the Eat to the Beat concert series.
Yep.
And when I tell you that I had a roller coaster of emotion with regards to the Eat to the Beat concert series, when we originally planned our trip, we planned our Epcot day around wanting to experience the joy that is Kevin Bacon performing music live. So the day that we were at Epcot was supposed to be Kevin Bacon and his band performing. I just wanted to hear the Guardian song, like the songs from the Guardians Holiday Special live. I wanted to hear Footloose by Kevin Bacon. Like, I just wanted this in my life. We get on the Skyliner to go to Epcot that day, and two other folks get in the same car as us, and we started talking. They'd been
Kevin
there.
Bacon. No, I'm kidding.
Well, they went to that first Halloween party. We went to the second one, so they were giving us the rundown on some of the things they experienced at the Halloween party. But then we got to talking about, so what are you planning to do today at Epcot? And they're like, well, we were going to see Kevin Bacon until he canceled. So we find out as we're going to Epcot that Kevin Bacon canceled. And the information that they gave us was that the fill-in for Kevin Bacon was American Idol alumnus Ruben Studdard. Now,
It's a pretty good film.
my mom and sister love American Idol. They could not care less about Ruben Studdard performing at Epcot. So we were like, all right, great. If we're walking past, we'll say, hey, this is neat, and grab a quick photo, whatever. But then as we enter Epcot, and this is going to be the most millennial ass shit I'm going to say today, the signs for the Eat to the Beat concert series around the park show that the Fray will be performing all day. So the fact that, like, my sister learned to play the keyboard as a kid, and when I say learn to play the keyboard, she learned to play one song kind of okay.
How to Save a
And
Life.
that was How to Save a Life by the Fray. So it was one of these moments of, like, she was in her element. She was having an absolute blast finding out, like, this roller coaster was like up and down and up, and it was an up by the end of it, getting the chance to thankfully sit down for a while and not have to worry about you're still worrying about the heat, but at least you're off your feet.
I will say that
and you really get the beat.
that entire concert series is bands around the same time as the Fray. Like, it is, they know their audience with that concert series.
Yeah, they are targeting us millennials, and I'm all about it. But that was a great little surprise that we weren't expecting on that day, and I love that the way I tend to approach something like this is I have everything planned down to not necessarily the minute, but like I know if we hit, let's say Ratatouille and Frozen before we get our Guardians virtual queue, that our Epcot day is off to a good start, that kind of thing. And we didn't on that Epcot day. So getting that surprise and having that moment of my sister, like, just screaming out these songs by the Fray, of which I knew like 3 of them, was a nice little treat. And for me, the kind of person that plans these kind of trips down to the, planning that itinerary and then getting this curveball, but that curveball ending up being one of the nicer moments we had on the trip, for me was a highlight because it was just so unexpected.
All right, so we're getting up to near the end of the show. So I want to wrap this up from both of you. You both were there. Again, you both suck. In the best possible way.
We didn't know this. We didn't know this until the day after. We were probably standing within 50 feet of each other because we were both huddled at some point around the partner statue of Walt and Mickey in Magic Kingdom for what we're going to talk about. So we, without knowing it, saw this from basically the same perspective.
Mm-hmm. And we will eventually do a full episode on it at some point in the future. We keep talking about how we're going to do it. But yeah, I feel like that's the best place to wrap it up is how was Happily Ever After?
My third favorite experience of the entire trip. it would probably go Rise, Guardians, and then the fireworks. And honestly, Guardians and fireworks could switch. Like, I'm gonna try not to choke up this. It was the only time I cried at Disney. Like, I was so blown away by that show and everything that they put on the castle, and like it took me back to growing up and like watching Aladdin and Hercules and Lion King and like all these movies that formed who I am, that I was just, oh man, I lost it. It was so good. And I literally expected, because I didn't do any research of what to expect. I wanted to kind of be surprised by everything. And I expected just the castle with fireworks over it. That was all I was walking into. And the show that they put on, and Tinkerbell like flying over at the end, like it was so cool. And so like I remember leaning. Can I swear on this podcast?
Oh yeah,
I don't
of course.
remember.
Oh,
I leaned
100%.
over to Riss halfway through it and I go, God, this place is fucking magic. And I was like, this was so cool and amazing. And that was the night that like, so we did Magic Kingdom. We did lunch, hit a bunch of rides. I got to go on It's a Small World because my kid's grandma was like, don't go on It's a Small World. It's super annoying. And he was like, now I'm going to write it just to say I did. And he's like, Dad, we have to go on It's a Small World. I was like, all right, let's go on It's a Small World.
Such a good ride. I love that ride. My family
was so
hated the fact
fun.
I dragged them onto it. It's so great.
It was so great. So we left a little bit early. We went back to the hotel and got out of the heat for about an hour and a half. And everybody showered and we got dressed up. And then we went back to Magic Kingdom for the evening. And we did, we had the photo pass. So every time there was a photographer, we were binging the wristbands and getting like really nice photos. And we did the photos of 3 of us and photos of just me and the kid and photos of just me and Riss. We did that at sunset in front of the castle and then walked up and watched the fireworks. And like, it was just the piece de la resistance, as they say. Like, it was so beautiful and amazing. And you didn't think about the heat at all. Like, the sun went down and it was actually a pretty pleasant evening at that point. And like, it was just, oh my God, I could go on and on about the fireworks show, but it was amazing.
So Happily Ever After is always going to hold a very special place for me because, and I'm already like, I have the full body shivers now. I'm probably going to cry at some point because I had a very similar experience, Aaron, where the emotion of it hit me so hard the last time I saw it because it was our first day at Disney. It was the day that I proposed to my wife, and it was our childhood in front of us doing the thing that it did and making you very emotional. This trip, it hit much harder in a different way after getting married. Surprisingly enough, because there are 2 songs that are in that show that no matter what now, when I hear them, I tear up. And it's You'll Be in My Heart, because that is the mother-son dance that my mom and I did at my wedding. And it is I Can See the Light from Tangled, because my wife and I got married during COVID. So we got married in 2020. And then we were able to have the party with the traditional dance. Like, I did the mother-son dance in 2021 when we had this bigger party and could enjoy it a little bit more. When we got married in 2020, we didn't get the first dance moment. We didn't get any of these things. But when we got back to the hotel room that we had that night, the first thing I did was I put on an acoustic version of I Can See the Light. And that was our first dance as husband and wife. And we did something different for the party. So we had this moment where we had like the public first dance song, and we had something that's private and more intimate to us. So when that moment comes up for either of those songs, I'm an absolute ball of emotions now anytime I hear them. And to see it at the scale and spectacle that Disney puts on in that park, like knowing that Disney is the second largest purchaser of explosives in the world because of what they do every night with fireworks, it totally tracks. The fact that they only trail the U.S. military is probably another conversation that should be had at some point about, reining in military spending, but that's not what we're here to talk about.
Yes, time.
Yeah, I like the explosives for fireworks significantly more.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%. It's much more family friendly. But
I'm glad to hear that.
That show, like, for the fact that show was the nightcap to the day I got engaged, and also now includes 2 moments that are very important to me with those 2 songs. I'm never not going to be emotional watching the thing. I still throw on the 4K. Someone set up a camera in the park to tape the show, like probably once or twice a month for a good cry. Like it's that deeply ingrained in me now, and I'm so glad that I got to inadvertently share that experience with a friend on the same day, which is just wild to me.
Approximately 20 meters away.
If that. I like the
Yeah.
thank you for using the metric system, by the way. I went with feet, you went with meters, and it's very
That
much
was nice.
appreciated.
That was a nice moment.
Well, here's the thing. The truth
That
is I
was
spent
really
too much time
cool.
in Canada.
Yeah.
It was really cool to like for me and Mitch to get together at lunch and start gushing over the fireworks and this like light bulb moment of like, wait, you went last night? I was like, yeah, we were there last night. And then he's like, where were you standing? And I was like, okay, so we went up to the statue and just off to the right. And he's like, that's where we were.
We were
Like-
at the statue and then we just stepped in front of it a little bit. We were just in front of the statue.
Yeah, and we were just off to the side of it. So
Yeah.
not far at all.
Yeah,
Wow.
I really am jealous of you guys, both for the Disney part of it, but also just getting to hang out with each other.
That was
Okay,
awesome.
so,
Lunch-
so
One of the
when's our
highlights of
Disney
the trip
trip
of, like,
happening, guys? That's what I want to know. When are we all going?
Paris was our next bucket list one. So if you want to travel to Europe with us, we can make that happen. Honestly, though, the fact that I got to take it's funny too because like the bag, my mom borrowed a bag from me, and it has a Kind of Funny pin on it. For those who don't know, Kind of Funny, this YouTube group that we're all mutual fans of, and that's sort of how
Literally
the
wearing a
relationship
KF shirt.
started, and then it balloons or blossoms into something different from there. But it was kind of this weird full circle moment of like my family's aware that I'm part of this fandom and have friends that I've made through this. But the fact that my mom had a bag on with a pin for that group and I was able to connect with someone that I've only ever talked with online, and I had to explain to my mom and sister, hey, I have a friend here. Oh, how do you know him? Well, we talk on the internet once in a while. And it's just one of those things of like the post-COVID friendships are weird.
I know. And
Where
it's not like
so
we
much
met
of it
through a
happened
friend
online.
app. We just like, oh, it's a
but, like,
Twitter
when
friend.
it happens, when it translates to a real life experience, is kind of that full circle moment of like, oh, this makes sense. This is why this why we get together and do this. It's why we have friends and we want to chat with
Yeah.
on this show, because having a moment like that and sharing that moment with you and your family, and that was one of the highlights of the trip for me.
Same. Absolutely same. Just getting to
sure.
sit down at the Avatar restaurant and have lunch and talk about boba and talk about the food.
Those cheeseburger buns were no joke. Like,
Oh, so good.
it's such a good choice.
Yeah, they did cheeseburger bows and oh my goodness. So good.
Yeah. Like the last time I was there, I got the beef bowl and I knew it was good. So like that's what I recommended to my mom and sister. And my sister got one. My mom got a kid's meal because she wasn't super hungry. Which is one of those things like, oh yeah, let's just try something different. And Aaron and I ended up ordering the same things. Like, oh my god, this is so friggin' good.
Yeah, it was so great. And the fact, like, that was just one of those, like, kind of perfect moments of we both ended rides at the same time. We were able to get to the restaurant at the same time. And then we surprisingly were able to find a table big enough for all of us.
That
And
was
so-
the impossible task. Like, we were
Yeah.
circling this restaurant for minutes because, like, they have it set up in an interesting way where they don't want you to enter the restaurant unless you've placed a mobile order or you're having to place an order in real time, like at the kiosk, or with a person. Lot of push for mobile order, which if we hadn't had that Disney dining card, we probably wouldn't have mobile ordered. And we didn't for the last couple of days because
Mobile
we
orders
had
where it's
cash
at.
to use. It is, and we did that for our Disneyland trip where it was my wife and I, and we have a credit card for travel that will waive the foreign transaction fee. But that's the biggest thing is like we could use our credit card, but if we used a standard credit card, you're getting dinged like an extra 1.5% or 2%, depending on the card, on top of whatever exchange rate the bank decides it's going to use for that day.
Sure. Don't have to worry
yeah.
about
So
it.
that's why we had cash for the latter part of the trip or for like the souvenirs and stuff. But having that Disney dining card made those first few days so much easier because it was, okay, Aaron and I both get to the restaurant around the same time. I've placed my order. I'm waiting to get the buzz to go pick it up. And once we had it, it was, okay, circle the restaurant. And we found a cast member who was super helpful in helping us to rearrange like a table for 4 and a table for 2, pull them together. And it just kind of, it was this perfect moment, which
Yeah.
Disney is just so good at organically creating. And in this case, it was just a moment where we were able to kind of just sit and have one of the best meals that I had when I was at Disney. And it wasn't just the company. The food was also really good. So
Yeah. And it was really fun because it wasn't like just me and Mitch. Like I've been fortunate over like the last 18 months. I was thinking about it today before I jumped on this. Like I've been so fortunate to meet KFBF's like all over the country over the last 18 months. I got to hang out with some in New York when I happened to go visit there. Eric from San Francisco went and got a car in Kansas and was driving it back, and he stopped and we had dinner and everything. And like, I've had all these really cool experiences, and then this one was easily like the most random and magical. But it wasn't just me and Mitch, where all those have been very single. Like getting to sit with our families and like everybody get to talk and like just kind of mingle and get to know each other. I don't know, it was awesome, and it was such a good break. Like,
yeah,
I learned.
I had
this
so much
trip on
fun just
Disney,
I had so much fun just chatting with your kid and getting to
Yeah.
just experience through his stories the way that he'd enjoyed his trip up to that point. Like that was honestly for me is just like having not been to Disney with a kid of my own or with a kid that I'm there with. It was really fun to like the adult trip is one thing, but getting to, you know, experience the pure joy of what he had done to that point on that trip and all of the free ice cream he was bragging about the entire time we were eating was just, it was so much fun. It was great to get to know them a little bit too, which is always interesting of, you know, exposing your family and like friends that are out. Like I had KFBFs at my wedding. Because with COVID, you didn't do anything in person. So you had a lot of friendships that, you know, you fostered online and those turned into real life friendships and are some of the best relationships that I have. And I've always struggled a little bit with maintaining friendships over the course of, you know, years. I have one friend from high school and she's sleeping in the next room because I married her. So having these adult relationships that I've been able to foster and through one of the weirdest, strangest times we all have had to experience with COVID, and to come out of it with some of these moments like having lunch or having a meal with someone from across the country or running into someone from another country that happens to be at the same theme park as you. It's wild the kinds of connections that can be made, and getting to do this and chat with you both in person and now is just such a treat. So appreciate awesome. Griffin giving us this opportunity.
I know, right? And now my kid has only met two kind of funny people ever, because everyone else I've been traveling like with just me and Riss. He's met Mitch and Cool Greg. So
that's a great list to be on. That's a great list to be on. Did I ever tell you? When we stop recording, I'm gonna tell you my Cool Greg story.
I love Cool G.
Sweet. Yeah, I'll tell you mine too off air.
With that though, folks, we should probably wrap things up. Aaron, thanks for coming out, hanging out with us. If people want to keep up with you, where can people find you?
Twitter is the best place. It's just my name, at Aaron Seaney, AARONSEANEY. I've been pretty inactive on social media lately, but Twitter is probably still where I'm the most active of just shouting things out and talking to people. So,
yeah, I feel that ever since the slow death of that site. It's like, okay, well, do I need to be on social media?
It hasn't been the slowest, to be honest, which is kind of unfortunate because it's where a lot of these relationships were kind of fostered through the pandemic.
Shout out to Discord.
We'll find other places like this to get together and chat.
Oh, yeah, and with that said, if you want to find me, I'm Aaron Seaney everywhere. I have the Blue Sky, I have Threads, I have all that stuff. It's just, it hasn't grabbed me yet where I've been using it consistently. So all the things, find me at my name.
Go fast. Anyways.
Gotta go fast.
We will be back hopefully soon with the new episode. We won't have these random extended breaks where we get busy with life. It happens.
Yes, we will.
Okay, we absolutely will, but we'll be better, we promise. I hope.
Maybe what I'd like to do then, while we still have some of this weird time, is maybe we start doing some...
I was going to say just back record, make a backlog, finally.
I was going to say, why don't we do a games episode?
Ooh, bring me back for that.
We'll do a D plus us video game club or something and talk about some video games because it's less focus on the ongoing job action for both the Writers Guild and SAG-AFTRA.
Yeah, like we mentioned at the top of the show, folks, we are trying to figure out other Disney content to talk about that isn't necessarily movies or TV during this time where the companies suck. Even though we're still talking about Disney, and Disney is particularly one of the worst ones.
Yeah, we gave them all this free press for their park where, you know, they're using that to kind of fund the, you know, belittling and degradation.
And I'm like, oh yeah, the parks and plays aren't treated too great either. But beside the point, yeah, go check out our other stuff. We are around here. We are posting stuff. Like I mentioned, new video essays soon. Go check out the old one. Go check out old episodes. Yada, yada, yada. We will see y'all in the next episode. But until then, have a magical day.